What is up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Obby's Awesome Films here, coming to you live through the power of the internet. Welcome to the Fighters Pass 2 Obby's Awesome Films official predictions. We're not messing around here, boys. We're slapping official on it because I'm not scared. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to fear, boys. This is the official predictions, and we are here with that utter accuracy. Anyways, before we begin, boom, what is the Fighters Pass? You see, the Fighters Pass is, as you know, a paid expansion pass featuring 5 new playable fighters or playable characters. Each fighter comes with a stage, they come with various music tracks, they also come with spirits dedicated to that specific fighter and that specific series. They also cost $25 US. Fighters Pass 1 came with 4 third-party characters and 1 first-party character. So they appear to be primarily third-party characters, although, you know what, I'm going to say it right now, guys, this isn't necessarily the case. This isn't set in stone. Fighters Pass 2 could have entirely third-party, it could have entirely first-party. We don't know. Here are the characters in Fighters Pass 1. Joker from Persona 5. Hero from Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. Banjo and Kazooie from Banjo-Kazooie. And Banjo-Tooie. And Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts. Next, you've got Terry from the Fatal Fury series and the spin-off series, King of Fighters. Next, we've got Byleth from the mega popular Japanese tactical RPG series, Fire Emblem, or more specifically the video game, the mega popular video game, Fire Emblem Three Houses. So as you can see, we've got first 4 being third-party fighters, final one being a first party. Now, close your eyes, right? And imagine a world, right, in which I had released a Fighters Pass 1 prediction and every single character was completely correct. Now open your eyes, because that world will never exist. The world that does exist, however, is that I got 2 out of 5 of the fighters correct. Hero and Banjo-Kazooie. So I am telling you, right, based on, I'm like a machine, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking what I got wrong, I'm taking my faults, my strengths, and I'm improving upon it. I'm computer learning. And so I'm going to propose to you that I'm going to get 4 out of 5 of these DLC characters correct. Or 4 out of 6, technically. Remember, my opinion is irrelevant. What matters is the machine. I have my own subjective opinions. I am only human after all. I'm trying my best to get rid of that side of me, but I am human after all. You know, I am weighed down by my species. But what matters is the machine. I am not saying these as a subjective host here. I am taking my predictions from the great machinations of the universe itself, from the gears that turn from the machine. So that's who I'm taking from. My opinion is simply irrelevant. What matters is the machine. So Fighters Pass 2 features 6 additional fighters, not just 5. So here is my prediction. I predict 2 of them are going to be first-party fighters, and 4 of them will be third-party. I am basing that on nothing more than what the machine has told me. So this is going to be structured. We're going to break down each potential candidate and which company they come from and decide just how likely they are. And we're also going to create an objective list that is 100% accurate, or to be more accurate, 4 out of 6 of who will make it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Remember, I am the machine. I listen to the machine. I am completely apolitical within this equation. Starting off, we're going to do the first-party fighters. Now, I have a little theory about the first-party fighters. I believe that one of the first-party fighters is going to be a character that people really want. It's going to be a character that people have been begging Sakurai for in the past. And I think Nintendo's going to keep tabs on that and potentially implement them in the game. Second character is going to be a character that nobody really cares that much about. It's going to be a kind of a boring choice, kind of a marketing choice. So, first off, let's start with the more exciting category, the highly requested characters. I don't know if my webcam's actually in the way, it probably is, but we're just going to talk about all these highly requested characters here. Coming in first, we've got Dixie Kong. Dixie Kong, I mean, come on, we know Dixie Kong from the Donkey Kong Country series, essentially a staple character from that series, has a good amount of moveset potential, could be another Donkey Kong rep. Next, we've got Bandana D, another Kirby rep. Kirby's been lacking in reps for, ever since after DDD. We haven't had a new Kirby character since Meta Knight and DDD. So it would make sense to have another character. Bandicoot already has a ton of moveset potential because, as you know, Smash Brothers was sort of built on, I guess, the fighting system of Kirby. Next, you got Isaac from Golden Sun. He's not making it in. We're going to skip him. Waluigi, I mean, the fourth Mario brother, absolute kooky character. He could be a fantastic sports representative, Mario sports representative, and represent that side of Nintendo. Granted, he's not that popular in Japan, but we'll see. We'll see if Nintendo's listening here. Geno, beloved character, one of the most widely requested characters. Super Mario RPG, while that's not necessarily a mega franchise or mega big game, Geno still managed to stick around in the minds of the people, and that's ultimately what matters the most. It's not about relevance. If it was about relevance, then Banjo-Kazooie would never have made it into Smash. It's about what the people want. Crystal. You know furries, ladies and gentlemen. They absolutely love their foxes. Crystal would be an impeccable choice for the furry representative in Super Smash Brothers. Skull Kid. This is kind of a weird character. I'll be honest, it's kind of a weird character to want. I don't know why. What about Skull Kid makes him more likely? I feel like his moveset would just... I feel like he's just... I don't know why people, out of all the Zelda characters, people cling to Skull Kid as being the Smash Bros. One. I don't know what... I don't know. Whatever. But people want him, and that's what matters. The people want him. I'm apolitical. I am not here to give my opinion. I am here to follow the will of the machine. And, yeah, that's it. That's all the highly requested characters. So out of all of these characters, all 7 of these characters that I've displayed up here, who do I think stands the best chance of making it in? Keep in mind, I'm picking a character that fans have been requesting for a long time, and that Nintendo is aware about. So that brings us to Geno. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I think Geno is going to make it into the Fighter's Pass. While Geno is not a huge character, there's still a lot of moveset potential there. He is widely requested. We know that he's almost made it into the game a few times. Sakurai has said that at one point Geno was meant to be in Brawl, and he's also probably considered him for Smash 4, so it's really only a matter of time before he comes in. And given that this is the final DLC of Smash Bros. Ultimate, he makes sense. But what about the second first-party rep? So, I said before, I personally think the second first-party rep is going to be a business decision. A marketing ploy, if you will. Let's take a look at what Fighters Pass 1. People often view Byleth as being a marketing rep, really, because, I don't know, I guess people just think other reps would be more fitting, and that it makes more sense from a marketing point. But let's see, why does Nintendo keep pulling from Fire Emblem, right? Well, let's break down the reasons why they do. Fire Emblem is a very popular franchise. It is becoming one of Nintendo's biggest franchises. In just the past, 10 years alone, it's become massive. Not even, less than 10 years. Second, it's got a wide roster of characters. The entire appeal of Fire Emblem is that it's got characters and it's got units. So it makes sense to take the most bland characters and the most bland units from those games and put them into Smash Brothers. But the point is that it's a wide roster. So it makes sense to constantly take from that franchise because you're always going to have new characters and new games that need to be represented. New generations, if you will. I think you know where I'm going with this. What series does Nintendo have? Mega popular. Wide roster of characters. Constantly updating roster. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Pokemon. I think Pokemon's a franchise that Nintendo's always going to take characters from because it's so massive. And, there's always going to be a game around the corner. There's a few possibilities I have. Before we get into my more tangible predictions, I'm going to say that I think a Gen 9 starter, or Gen 9 Pokemon, not necessarily a starter, is very likely. We know the Fighter's Pass is supposed to come out December 31st, 2021. That's a long time from now, and I firmly believe that by then, even if Gen 9 won't be announced necessarily, we're going to start, transitioning to Gen 9. I believe that if we were to get a DLC fighter for Gen 9 Pokemon, it's going to be a character that we've never actually seen before, period. That's going to be kind of the crazy, outstanding pick, more of a wackadoodle pick. So let's talk about, but that's very hypothetical. We can't really make a prediction about Gen 9, so that's just going to be in our minds, right? Let's take a look at what we can predict. Generation 8. I think Generation 8, it makes sense for Gen 8 to be represented. And I think there's only 3 Pokemon that would really work, that have the recognizability to make it into Smash, and that are and also Smash friendly. Cinderace, Inteleon, Rillaboom, the 3-star final evolution starters. I think out of the 3, the most likely one is Cinderace. I think the second most likely, however, which I find personally, after all, I am human, and I do have opinions, personally, more interesting is Rillaboom, because we've never had a final evolution grass starter in the game. We've had 2 fire types and a fully evolved water type, so maybe it's time for grass type to get some love. Maybe Nintendo is paying attention. Maybe they're like, guys, we could use another grass type. And, they're probably not. It's probably just going to be Cinderace anyways. But maybe they're listening. Maybe they're going to put Rillaboom in Smash Brothers. He would play a little bit differently because he is a big, more gorilla-shaped figure. He would be a heavier character than what Pokemon typically has. I believe the heaviest right now is Charizard, so he would be an interesting choice to put in Smash Brothers. But I do not think these are the only Generation 8 contenders. As you know, Pokemon has recently announced some DLC. Isle of Armor, Crown Tundra, introducing new maps, new game modes, new characters, new costumes, but most importantly, new Pokemon. There's some new legendary Pokemon in this DLC. One of them stands out to me the most. Urshifu. Urshifu to me is a very interesting choice. I think if this were to come out, it would come out within the year. I can't imagine that they would push that to next year. But with that said, I still think Urshifu stands a good chance. Urshifu's got a style change gimmick. It's got 2 different forms with 2 different fighting styles. That could be implemented somewhere. You could have maybe a swap out with 2 different movesets. We know Urshifu is going to be an important part of the story of the Isle of Armor. So players are going to feel some sort of attachment towards the Pokemon. And design-wise, he looks very Smash-friendly. He's also the mascot of sorts to the Isle of Armor. So in a way, he could be a very good Generation 8 representative. So I think out of all the Gen 8 Pokemon, Urshifu stands the best chance if it isn't going to be a Gen 9 Pokemon. Next, we're going to delve into the third-party characters, This is a little bit more exciting, but also a lot more unknown. We don't know what'll happen, I can only guess. So let's just jump into it, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off, we're going to talk about what Capcom's got to offer. I believe I read somewhere that Capcom has the most amount of representation in Smash, factoring in, fighters, spirits, music tracks, the like. We already have a couple of Capcom characters, and, we even got a new one with Ken Masters. But that's not to say we won't get another one for DLC. There aren't a ton of options for Capcom. There's 2 likely choices I really see. Dante from Devil May Cry. This is an obvious choice simply because this character has absolutely blown up in popularity in recent years. I mean, actually the last year, basically, with Devil May Cry 5. He's recognizable. He's from a very loved franchise as well. Tons of moveset potential, a stage potential, final Smash potential. He's just a very safe pick, I think, for Smash Brothers. And I think that people were honestly really, really confident that he would make it into Fighters Pass 1 instead of Byleth. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's because people always try to see patterns that don't exist, like me. But I think Capcom's gonna put him in. I think there's another character though that stands just as much of a chance, if not more, but in some ways less as well. A little bit confusing, but we'll delve into it. Monster Hunter. This is from a very massive franchise. I believe it's like one of the biggest Japanese franchises in the world. It's coming from a very beloved franchise with Monster Hunter. Moveset potential is obvious because you've got so many different weapons. But here's why I think Monster Hunter doesn't stand as much of a chance as Dante. The point of Monster Hunter are the monsters. It's fighting the monsters. We've already gotten a monster in Smash Brothers, Rathalos. We've gotten a monster, a boss fight, and an assist trophy, which is, I think, enough for this series. I think that's more than enough. I don't think we need a full character for it. I think at the most, if we're going to see something, it's going to be... a Mii fighter costume, because you can it's so obvious. You just have armor as the Mii fighter costume, like the different types of armor, maybe weapons. But But obviously it's worth mentioning because it is such a massive franchise. The potential is there for sure with having a new stage. The stage could have a boss, some fun hazards, you know? But I still think it's fairly unlikely. Wait, what? There's more? What? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You see, keep in mind that what I'm about to say might rattle some feathers, but it is not my opinion. It is the opinion of the machine, and by opinion of the machine, I mean objective statement, objective belief of the machine. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I think Okami Amaterasu from the hit series Okami stands a chance. You're probably thinking, Okami's not big enough. There's no way they'd represent it in Smash Brothers. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Capcom has been absolutely re-releasing the shit out of this game. It's been re-released as much as Skyrim has. Can you imagine that? I believe the game at this point, the game has at this point surpassed 1 million sales, which makes it like a firmly in the cult classic like category. We know Capcom has an interest in reviving dead brands, and we know this series is still very relevant in the hearts of the people that originally created it, like Platinum Games, who Okami has said multiple times how he'd love to work on another Okami game. So I think it's only a matter of time before Capcom starts to lean into this series a little bit more. And what better way to do that than with Smash Brothers? You see, Okami would be a character that I think people would be very down with, simply because as a fighter, she brings a lot to the table. She's a good freaking girl. We don't have a lot of dog fighters in Smash, good dog fighters. In fact, we don't have any. We have a dog in a fursuit, and we have the atrocity that is Duck Hunt. So it would be a character people liked, you know, tons of moveset potential. He's got Amaterasu's got like 3 different weapon types, a ton of brush techniques. Sakurai has a massive hard-on for meter management. Amaterasu's got a meter with the brush techniques. Final Smash potential is obvious. You could do the Susanoo like rolling blade attack. The potential is so ripe that the machine cannot simply ignore Okami Amaterasu. It's so in your face. So yeah, Okami Amaterasu. I don't think she stands a chance. I think she has like a 2% chance. But in the wise words of Bruce Wayne, if there's even a 1% chance that this is the case, then we have to take it as an absolute. Here's the machine taking it as an absolute. It has to be mentioned. I still think Dante would probably stand the highest chance. Next. Oh, well, there we go. Featuring Dante from Dante. I think that Dante is going to be the one to make it in if we were to get another Capcom representative. Next, Ubisoft. I am actually super shocked that we don't have a Ubisoft rep yet. I was putting money on the Fighters Pass 1 having a Ubisoft rep. Ubisoft has always had a great relationship with Nintendo. They've supported the Wii U. They've supported even the Wii. They've supported the Switch so far. They've supported pretty much all of their platforms. It just makes sense for Ubisoft to have had a connection, and we know that they've had a lot of collaborations. They've had Mario and Rabbids. They have the Star Fox collab with Starlink. I absolutely cannot believe that Ubisoft hasn't had a fighter yet. There are really only 2 choices I can see. One of them is a safe pick, and the other is a kind of a wackier pick. Let's start off with the safe pick. I think the safe pick is Rayman. This is obvious. I don't think I need to justify the machine's decision too much, simply because Rayman, you know, he's got a very recognizable character trait. He's very charming, got a ton of charisma, a lot of character to each of one of his animations, you know. His limbless body makes his visuals that much more interesting. His moveset potential is obvious. Final Smash could be summoning the Fly to help him, you know, stage potential. It's all there. And I have a feeling Rayman's going to make it in. I feel like if Rayman was deconfirmed, they would have made him a Mii Fighter costume by now. But I have a feeling that, he's at least in the talks, or at least under consideration for becoming a full-on fighter. It's just too obvious. He's Ubisoft's mascot, or he was Ubisoft's mascot. They don't really push him that much anymore. But he would be a fantastic fast Smash fighter. And Ubisoft, once that dude is done with Beyond Good and Evil 2, make another Rayman game. Just do it. Just simply do it. You know, Origins, Legends, 2 of the best platforming games of this decade. Simply, but it's just a fact. Anyways, wackier pick. Travis Touchdown. I actually looked it up. This is technically a Ubisoft character. I believe in Japan he's published by another company. I think it's like Xseed, but I could be wrong. But in the West, he's internationally he is published by Ubisoft, so he'd be a good pick. I think he would be a pick people would be down with. No More Heroes isn't a massive franchise, but it is I feel like it is recognizable. If Travis has a ton of character, I think he has a lot of moveset potential. He has enough on his own to stand as a character that people would want to play as, and it would also bring more exposure to No More Heroes. He could be, and we know that No More Heroes 3 is coming out later this year, so he could be more of a marketing pick if Ubisoft wants to push him. Although, again, I don't know how much Ubisoft has a say in like marketing these kinds of things. I just know that they're the ones that distribute and publish his games in the West. Next up, we've got Sony. Sony is a big unknown because there's two ways I could see a Sony rep make it in. I could see a full-on Sony rep. I could see Sony be like, here's one of our characters, Nintendo. Put them in Smash Brothers. Or I could see a Sony rep by proxy, sort of like what we've gotten with Snake or with Cloud Strife, where they're not technically Sony-owned characters, but they're so important to the DNA of old PlayStation consoles that they basically are Sony reps in a way. I personally think the rep by proxy is more likely, simply because I don't see Sony actually wanting to put in a character in Smash Brothers, but hey, maybe things will change. Maybe Sony acknowledges, like, hey, Microsoft gave one of the reps, why not we do something special? This is a gaming celebration after all. Anyways, here are the characters. There are 3 characters I think that Sony could possibly pose to Smash Brothers. The first, and this is going to go in order of likeliness. First one, Jak and Daxter. I mean, this would be a nice Naughty Dog rep because Naughty Dog is so significant to Sony. They've come out with their biggest properties: Crash Bandicoot, Uncharted, Jak and Daxter, Last of Us. Jak and Daxter also has a ton of moveset potential, stage potential. The biggest thing I can see holding them back is that Jak and Daxter is kind of dead. Like, it's not a series that I think Naughty Dog ever wants to go back to in the future. So in that way, I think it doesn't stand as much of a chance as some of the later characters. And also, Jak and Daxter's identity is very much only associated with the PS2. Again, Jak died at like the PS2 basically. There are some PSP games, but the series died after the PS2. And there's other reps that I think would represent a more diverse, more wider range of consoles that Sony has. Next pick, Kratos from God of War. This one, again, obvious moveset potential. Kratos has a ton of weapons to use. He has a Spartan mode. He has a double jump. Wow, great, right? He's got stage potential. His music would be stellar. He's such an obvious choice for Smash Brothers. He is a very recognizable Sony character. I mean, everyone can pretty much recognize Kratos, right? The biggest thing holding him back, and I know this is kind of a bunk argument because we've had plenty of violent characters, but I think violence does come to it. I think that Kratos is a character associated heavily with the sex, with the violence of God of War, and I don't know exactly if Nintendo would consider Kratos. Kratos is still a very significant Sony mascot, and so in that way I think he stands a good chance. He has a ton of potential as a character, but I still don't think... But there's a sneaking part of the machine that believes that there's one more character that I think is more likely. What's that character, ladies and gentlemen? Ratchet and Clank. Very mascot-friendly characters, very Smash-friendly characters, and they're absolutely huge in the history of Sony. Insomniac, while not being a Sony company, Ratchet & Clank is a Sony IP. Very important. Ratchet & Clank has stuck with the series from thick and thin. The games have sold fantastic to horrible, and the series still persists. The series continues on. PS2, obviously, you got the main trilogy. You've got that game, Deadlocked, I think that game is called. Then you got PS3, you got the future games. You've got even the PS4 had the remake, and I'm pretty sure Sony has plans for Ratchet and Clank simply because when they bought out Insomniac, they explicitly mentioned Ratchet and Clank. So in a way, this series still not dead. It's still going to continue on. It's a series that would make a ton of sense for Sony, and it's always been an underdog of Sony, of PlayStation in a way. It would be it would be very refreshing to see Sony give some attention to this absolutely lovable duo. So I think if Sony would propose their own character to Smash, I think Ratchet and Clank stands a better chance. But as I said, I think a fighter by proxy stands the highest chance. And who do we have now? Well, it comes from Activision. And we know I think you know where I'm going with this. Crash Bandicoot. I mean, I don't know how willing Activision would be to lend it to Smash, but Activision has been supporting the Switch a lot lately. We've got the Spyro collection, the Crash collection, the Crash Team Racing. So Crash does have that Nintendo precedent, although I don't think Nintendo precedent necessarily means anything in the grand scheme of things. but I think Crash Bandicoot still stands a good chance. You know, he's got a recognizable design. It would be nice to have another Mario competitor in Smash Brothers. It would just be cool. Again, he's such a huge, significant part of gaming culture, gaming history, that it would be weird to leave him out. The biggest thing I can see holding him back is I have no idea what his moveset would be. Crash has had a very limited moveset in the past, and putting him in Smash Brothers, I just don't know what he would have. As far as what, doesn't he have fucking 3 moves? He's got a spin, he's got a jump, and he's got a slide. I don't know what they could do for Crash to flesh him out. They'll find a way though. Sakurai would find a way. He gave a fucking Piranha Plant a fucking move set, so he could do something with Crash Bandicoot. So yeah, I think Crash Bandicoot, if we're getting a Sony rep, stands the most chance because he's not technically Sony. He's a by proxy Sony character. Although I think he's a lot more obviously Sony than even Cloud Strife or Snake. I think Crash is he basically was a Sony IP. Next we've got Square Enix. This is going to be the last pick of the night, ladies and gentlemen, or of the day. I don't know if Square Enix is going to put another fighter in. They've already got Hero from Dragon Quest, which is a very, very big pick, although a little bit safe. Square Enix still has one very highly requested fighter, and I genuinely believe if this fighter comes into Smash Brothers, he's going to be the very first character announced. We want a character that's going to sell the Fighter's Pass. We want a character that is extremely highly requested. The character that people are going to see and be like, yep, I need this ASAP. What character has been highly requested across all regions? Number 1 in Japan and top 3 in Europe and the States. Sora from Kingdom Hearts. This is a crazy pick. And honestly, this is the one I'm probably the most unsure about, simply because there's a lot to Sora that kind of goes beyond just Square Enix. There's also Disney. It's also Disney. But I believe I read somewhere that Disney's actually open to it. Disney Japan is open to putting Sora into Kingdom Hearts. So really, the ball's in Square Enix's court if they want to put this character in. It is interesting. I would like to see how they would get it done, simply because Sora does have... Simply because Sora is hugely... Kingdom Hearts as a series is obviously very ingrained with, Disney. And so they could make, a completely original stage. I mean, there's enough original content in Kingdom Hearts to carry it through Smash without Disney, but it just would feel very strange, It would be weird to have Kingdom Hearts without any reference of Donald and Goofy. It would make no sense, to be honest. It would be... Because, people are already kind of mad about Final Fantasy not being in Kingdom Hearts 3 that much, but I feel like Disney is so much more important to the identity, because that's ultimately what brings the series into, what brings casual demographics into the series, and that's what made it so huge. I think I genuinely believe Kingdom Hearts needs Disney more than Final Fantasy. And it would be weird to have a final Smash without Donald and Goofy. It would be weird to see, I guess, Kingdom Hearts represented in Smash without Disney planted in there somewhere, without King Mickey, without, I just said Donald and Goofy. It could be done, though. There's still, final Smash. They could just do the finishing move that Sora and Riku use against Ansem or Xemnas. There's still a ton they could do, stage where it could just be Hollow Bastion, Traverse Town, whatever. There's still so much they could do, but I'm saying it would be really, I think it would be a little bit strange. I also think Roxas and Ventus could be really good Echo Fighters. Who knows? Maybe we get an Echo Fighter for Sora as well. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? But I think if Sora would make it into Smash Brothers, he would be the first fighter revealed, because this would sell passes out the wazoo. Kingdom Hearts does have Nintendo precedent with Chain of Memories, Recoded, 358.5 Days, Birth by Sleep, or no, not Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, and I have a feeling the collection's going to come to Switch eventually as well. That's just a suspicion I have. But yeah, so that's my little bit of a surprise pick. Let's talk about the order now. Here's my order for Fighters Pass 2. I believe first up we're going to get Sora. Sora's going to get announced. He's going to be a massive, what the fuck pick. He's going to be huge. I'm just going to say it. He's going to sell passes, $25. People are going to be so happy to drop $25 on this one character alone. And then next up, we're going to get a safer pick with Rayman, a safe Ubisoft pick. Kind of the hero, if you will, of Fighters Pass 2. A character that people are like, yeah, it makes sense he'd be in. He's not as exciting as a pick as Banjo-Kazooie, or maybe he's not as exciting as Sora or as Geno, but, he has his own merits. He makes sense. Or, you know, if they want to coincide with the release of No More Heroes 3, they could put in Traverse Touchdown instead of Rayman. We will see. Coming number 3, we're going to get our first party rep with, to end off the year, I think, with Geno. You know, a highly requested character, a character that has yet to make it into Smash Brothers, and we know that he's almost made it into Smash Brothers. He'd be a good pick to end the year on. Then we've got, next choice, we've got Dante. A little bit of an exciting pick, in my opinion, you know. Capcom, kind of maybe a safe pick, but still an interesting pick nonetheless. Again, people love Devil May Cry. He would be a popular character to use for a Fighter's Pass. And then we got Crash Bandicoot. This would be a very exciting pick because, you know, Crash Bandicoot is just that significant to history of gaming. He's such a recognizable icon. He makes a ton of sense to put in, and he would be the final character that people get hyped for. And then people are going to be absolutely pissed off when, you know, we started with Sora, we got Dante, we got Crash. People are going to be completely pissed off when the final character is a Pokemon, and it's going to be either, I think, the more likely a Gen 9 Pokemon, or if they want to bring the Pokemon in sooner, it's going to be Urshifu. But I have a feeling it's going to be a Gen 9 Mon. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is my Fighters Pass 2 prediction. We are going for 4 out of 6 of these bad boys correct. Because, you know, that's what we do. We learn, we evolve, we adapt, we change. We dropped our predictions for the Fighters Pass. Let me know what you think. Let me know how likely you think these are. Let me know how unlikely you think these are. Let me know who I missed out that you think has a better chance of getting in. This has been me, Obby's Awesome Films, here coming at you live with the power of the internet. Bless your face. If you sneeze during this video, bless you. Peace off.